this for the first time. Oh God, yeah. No one there during the whole time putting it on though. Yeah, because of the traffic lights, it's obvious. There is a lot of traffic on this road, it's just the traffic lights that stopped them all being there while I was taping before. Come on, piss off. Yeah, they have. So the final stretch just by the centre of alternative technology. Some bits didn't really look like you were going up a hill, so it was really strange. I think it's almost got no power. How's it got the power to drive as we are now? It's like you get that on a bike there as well. You think this doesn't really feel like it's much uphill, or it's just like nearly flat. And I'm just like going up against some unseen force here, so it was like that. Yeah, you can brag around at 60 on most of these tight corners. Some bits of the road are straight into a wall like that. 50 for a few hundred meters. A487, what do you got? There we go. I've already got the pump. There we go. It's not bad. Better there or pass. Okay, if it is, let's stick to it. Well, let's not. Most roads in the middle of a weekend afternoon, it's a right session of cars. That's such a bad and even if it is broken, I'd love to find out how to just get that switch off, even if it's wrong, because there's nothing you can do about it. I'm thinking that we've actually been in Gwynedd the whole time since before Bala, but now we get a short shot of Powys before entering into Ceredigion, which is the county that Aberystwyth must be the main town of, obviously. Powys is a huge county in mid Wales, as is Gwynedd is a huge county encompassing Snowdonia and much of North Wales. Wales. Smaller now that they've changed the counties though. It's the town of Cumforth in HD. It's like Bala. It's got to be quite a busy time on Saturday afternoon. It's now after 2, it's about 10 past 2 I think. I was filming it in winter last time. It wasn't as good. Losing power at a slight hill. Town. Just going round. To stop start. Must be quite parochial here. I would have really imagined it is. The noise that makes must be audible outside the car. I can really tell that it is. Must be. That isn't though. Sure. Oh. It beeps, yeah, 'cause most of the lights don't beep with them. Yeah. The only other thing that does beep is the handbrake. If that's on, that's very easily remedied. So, a little mini roundabout that most drivers must drive right over. It's a sort of roundabout threatens to be a roundabout, but it isn't a roundabout. Just drive right over. It's hollow threat to slow down your journey. Straight out of town for that last little thing there. Yeah. It's on light most of the northwest, so towns end very quickly in Wales once they end. There's mountains of suburbs, a few little straggling houses here and there. That's it. It was a bit of an overcast day, it's slightly at this point actually. So better last time through it. Just filled every time, but then the car is falling to pieces. So. Alright, so this was 15, and Aberystwyth was 31 at the beginning of this stretch. It's got about 16 miles ahead now. Sign outside of Cumforth. Only single track road, the speed, the pace is usually dictated by one driver, and I have to admit that driver is sometimes me when I can't get up the hill. Goes on and on. There's lots of little villages or towns. There's sort of what's halfway between a town and a village. So that's the sort of place you seem to pass through. I'd say Williston, near where I live, is an example of that. Village, you know, should really make you think of something like Emmerdale, where you've just got a handful of shops, like the post office, a place to buy new groceries. That's where you know the person that works there, and you get a how do you do. You get the milk, the paper, and then just a few houses and the pub. That's a village. You get a village that's halfway between a town, is that you get that. There's a few extra shops and maybe a whole estate of houses with it, and then it's sort of like a town. It's almost a town, but it's not big enough to be called a town. Sometimes places have pubs that don't have a cheap. Williston doesn't have a cheap. You're not telling me that all the residents, there must be several thousand in Williston, surely. I don't know how many it is. Don't ever go to a chippy. It's a middle class class, and of course, the middle class, it's obligatory to know how to cook. It's sort of middle class law. But also, it's obligatory for middle class people to live these really rushed, busy lives, and that's what drives them to the shipping as well. So. My pace is set by these cars. I'm generally not going faster than 50 miles an hour anyway. The engine sounds like it's a Caravanette engine. Almost like it's going to chug out, which is what happened to me last time in a similar car in Wales. Oil light keeps coming on and flashing beeps at you. Sometimes there's a smell associated with it, but you can't seem to find out what's wrong, because when you do that little dipstick test, you often get enough oil. If you put more in, you still get it. You may even drive a mile of road and still have it flash at you, so no idea what's going on there. It's just past its MOT. What they said, in order for it to do so, it needed some work on the exhaust. But ever since they've done that, I got charged 227 quid. It's been making these funny vibrate noises every time we start the engine and on certain RPMs. But doesn't seem to be dropping off, doesn't seem to be driving any differently. Just the oil things. Dared to drive it this 100-mile journey. I've got to go back as well, of course. So. Actually, I come under pressure from parents and people. I was reading a thread on Digital Spy about adults who come under pressure from their parents not to smoke, and if they are a smoker, they will either accept it grudgingly. No, I'll stop this because that's Ceredigion. It's worth pointing this out, isn't it? Bye, Paris. Well, if we break down now, we've made it as far as Ceredigion. Brilliant. So if you disapprove of your son or daughter smoking, they're in their 20s, there's really nothing you can do, but you can put psychological pressure on them. So psychological pressure is great for where you can't actually stop someone doing something you don't want them to do. You make them feel guilty and chip away at it. But sometimes it doesn't do that, and it has the absolute opposite effect psychologically. Sometimes it makes people's resolve to do what you're disapproved of even greater. That's the classic, sometimes generational wars between parents and offspring. And in my case, yeah, so I'm now playing the role of someone who is selfish and reckless by driving here against the advice, in a way, just to attend something that's to do with a vegan fair or something, just to meet friends. I'm just trying to be philosophical, thinking, oh well, at least I'm in North Wales. But Ben did say, you know, if there's any doubt, you shouldn't really go. So it's one of those things now, I just have to live fully with the consequences. It's a good point, how much can you make your own decisions later on, you know, in adult life? You know, they may be a bit stupid, it may be a bit risky. Not as bad as smoking this, is it? But it is. It's a risk. Part of the psychology, which is the obstacle that I've got, is that if you've got a car, you're not supposed to feel like you can't use it. Like, oh, I better not go to Wales now when it's doing that, especially after you've paid to repair it anyway. Because then if you can only afford a cheaper car, an older car that's showing all sorts of problems and what have you, and someone else can afford a car that just gets them there, you just think, oh, why, you know, I is a sort of car hierarchy here, car class system. You can't actually, you know, it's like having a license just to be able to run around, to go to the shop and to go to your friend, which in a way is kind of why I've got a car. So I've got fed up with cycling with some friends over and over. It's sort of fun, it keeps you fit, but just in all weathers and everything. And then being about 6 miles away, yeah, you could have that thing where you say, well, all I want a car for is that, and so we better not risk it by going on long journeys with it as well. But you just want that feeling that if you've got a car, you can drive it somewhere. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's at the other end of the country or if it's down the road. You want that. You want the ability to do that. So, yeah, I could go in there and say, what's going on here? So another weird psychology I have about it is that, and that's why I've sort of come out, is that I'm sort of indignant and coming out because I'm thinking I want to be able to do it anyway, because I'm supposed to be a driver. Well, that was countered with no one's got a divine right to anything. Well, just as a matter of science, if something breaks or you can't afford it, that's it. Just making it right though, does it? The other psychology is if it's going to break down, it's going to do that. I just I kind of want to bring it on, because it's like it's an ever-increasing worry, like how long is this car going to last, and you know, how long can I keep driving the places I go and all that. And then I'm going to have to do, you know, being on the low income, I'm going to have to get another loan, scour the ads for second-hand cars, maybe pick on with a nice flat dashboard for filming these roads if we don't get a proper mount on. So there you go. And all that's going to have to happen at some point, presumably. So in a way, weirdly, rather than trying to extend the life of this car and actually think, oh, I'm going to, you know, have to deal with that, I actually want to keep driving as normal, bring on where it goes wrong, and just then be forced into the position where you've got to get another car if it's too bad to repair it and so on. Because then I will have the freedom sooner, ultimately, to carry on. Whereas if it's sort of like, oh, I better not go out here, better not do that, I'll sort of extend the life of it and everything, then I won't have had the freedom over all that time. And then I won't be able to buy another car where I can. So by just carrying on, bringing it forward, means that we get to that situation sooner. It could be quite painful, you know, spending hours at the roadside in North Wales, or walking where I can't get a signal, but you know, be at night as well because I'm driving back much later on. So, but still, I don't know how to do anything else. I don't know how to get a better income to get a better car, or to just get it repaired properly, which, you know. So how to do all that stuff in life. So. Like 2.5 hours even now left of the thing, not even in town yet. Figured out to park and deal with all the broken stuff about to bring. Beautiful area than this. Do you like it? Do you like anything about Wales? English, and I don't support England FC. Wayne Rooney gets £300,000 a week from the Premier League. Absolutely terrible. People try to defend that status quo by saying, well, it's nothing to do with us, it's a private business. I know that. But our end of the bargain, as citizens, consumers, wherever we are, is that you don't pay them that money. Not only do you not pay them money by like not pay to his matches or paying for Sky Sports and all that, the whole thing that ends up with that money. What else you don't do? You don't don't even support it on principle spiritually. You don't even get interested in it and sort of perpetuate the whole culture. Sometimes there's a monster in the room demanding attention, sometimes with outrageous terms, because it's got something that people want. It's a bit like the fable about the dragon in the village. Describe it. People had to keep feeding this hungry dragon to ensure their own survival. Well, people will do that with their interest in football because they are hooked into it. It's got bigger and bigger. It's consuming more and more of their resources. There are a lot of, I don't know, working class people who can't barely afford the tickets, but their passion for it is great enough that they will make it, they will pay for it somehow. It's a bit like this. I'm coming out here, I cannot afford to come really, but I'm doing it somehow. It's like that. That's the same psychology going on. So yeah, so I'm trying to spread the message, yes. Someone's getting paid £300,000 a week. People say, oh, you know, only nurses or doctors or soldiers can get paid that. I would say yes, it only. Yeah. When you think about that, when you think about the fact that, apart from the red herring that the footballers in the World Cup playing for England don't actually get paid a lot just within that. They're all from positions, Premier League clubs and all that, where they get paid a fortune. Just like the equality there's people now relying on food banks. There's one in my area, where I am is affluent-ish. This is Chester in the district. I don't know. Well, there's a food bank going there in that town, the town I'm in. Why do people need a food bank? Because the very bottom income that's provided in this country, you don't meet conditions of having a job or an income of your own, supposedly. You don't get that. You claim a benefit. If you're not in a special category, you get job seekers allowance. They've got all these ridiculous conditions now, ways to catch people out, cut their money for ages and sanction it so there's no money paid or there's less money paid, all the rest of it. So it's led to there being increased food banks. So in other words, people who are getting fed, not going to answer the channel. An interesting vehicle that I'm not sure I can overtake it. Look at that bend. Face to face with the motorbike. I can't overtake that now. Interesting equipment. I'd like to see it used against someone the farmer's annoyed at. I think I should brake a bit. We're not getting to see much of the town thanks to this. Good view, no. This is one of the last outposts before the west. We have all that inequality anyway going on. A lot of people are in work and just get paid what must obviously be an average wage because they can't do much with it. Because when I've paid the normal stuff that you always have to pay for now, like the water and gas and electricity bills, there's not enough to go to a restaurant, there's not enough to go out in the car, and so on. When they pay mortgage or rent or something. So it defeats what the right-wing people are saying in many ways. One thing they say is that come up with this way to dismiss food banks. We're just saying, well, the rise in food bank use is not to do with welfare cuts or sanctions, but it just so obviously is. It's that simple. If you've heard of a food bank now, why? Had you heard of it before the 2010 election? Because I haven't. I don't know when I first heard of it, but it was certainly the whole concept of food bank in the UK. I hadn't heard of that before 2010, and I don't think most people had. They did exist, but they were much smaller. So what's good is that infrastructure of even the food banks has developed, where they've made sweeping cuts to benefits and so on. The other thing is that, you know, here I have a friend of mine say, well, if you get a job, you'll be able to afford this and do this and all the rest of it. Which is sort of, it always comes across as very patronising and very, you know, one-dimensional thinking. Two things that you could pick out as being most annoying about it. One is that you can't get a job by getting something off Amazon. You can't. You have to ask someone, apply, hope to be successful, compete against other people. Then there are all these different types of jobs, and that brings you on to the second most important point. That many people in work still have a low income, still have a low wage. And so there are good jobs, different types of jobs. It's just so simplistic to tell someone to get a job, to increase their income. That might not work. Damn. There's no one coming. Look at this. We're on video. Oh, look at this. It's bloody awful because I'm overtaken. It takes me ages to do that. But I've done it. If I don't overtake, no one else can really. Look at this stream of cars and I did it, so that's good. I've not held the whole road up. Right, so I don't know. A lot of people I know in work, you know, family and friends, don't even have very much disposable income at all. Some are actually worse off than on some benefits as well. I'd be one of those people as it stands at the moment. So in life which are made less enjoyable by thinking about what costs they really come at. If I was 100% ethical, I wouldn't be here now driving. It's just adding to the whole congested feeling of the planet as well. Going around with these massive tins. I suppose environmental damage must take place in profits. Even though they put catalytic converters on little things now. Hardly any one of us can actually claim that we are 100% ethical person anyway, so when you tell someone the reason that I'm not doing this, you're still doing that is because you're less ethical than me and you're not bothered about it. Putting your own enjoyment before other important issues. Like eating meat, if you eat that, condemning animals to suffer. Many of eaters just say, oh, well, you know, I enjoy it, so I'm not going to stop. Even if it's sabotaging yourself, many smokers know it's damaging, but they're not going to stop. They either are going to stop or they're not going to bother, or find it very difficult to. Even when it's unethical to sell, you just never mind the whole thing. It just shows what, fundamentally, as a species, how we actually work. Let's continue. If football fans suppose they're destructive because we can see that it's in culture. If you have a low income yourself, or you know people are doing, you might even be within a large circle of people who are not rich or whatever. You know, a lot of your family and friends don't have that much income or in a fairly average situation, so you always feel a solidarity both on and off benefits. You realise that the average lot in life may be getting threatened as well. The freedoms of ordinary people. For me to come out now and do this, or some different things that we do, like we go abroad or we watch telly, or all those things, the infrastructure, the way we live in our houses. All of these things are always a threat because of the money system, and then of course the morale is that there are some people who are overly top, just pathetically rewarded beyond what they need. But that's okay because the law allows that, because anyone can have any amount of money they want, as well as the law allows people to be destitute or very rich. But if it met in the middle, it would say, well, we're not going to allow ridiculous poverty. We're also not going to allow some people to get such a stupid wealth that it's actually, probably taking things off of the people. So long as it could be taking things off of the people, like by having wealth that is distributed to only just a few people, so it's that morale, it's that thing it says about culture that you're not cared about, and you have to get into a ridiculously privileged position at the top of the pyramid in very unlikely circumstances to actually be, fairly wealthy, or some that are, it doesn't mind how much money they get, it just doesn't care about it. It doesn't care if people have nothing as well. Hopefully this car behind doesn't want to go faster than this. I'm third already trying to do it, this hill. I think this is pretty much the last hill before you start descending to Aberystwyth, so that's good. Well, the morale anyway is when you see that going on. You also know that ultimately it's not very important what they're doing. The footballers, even though, notwithstanding that you may not be into it, you realise that war is not tied to some sort of intrinsic people rather than when it's trotted out about nurses, doctors and soldiers and so on. I had to point out I wasn't pro-military, but obviously if there was a choice between people in the army being paid vast amounts because of how risky it is to put their life on the line, and really they've got an anxiety ahead of them that even if it's relatively safe and controlled, it does go wrong, so footballers are not going through all that. Imagine if they were, if people in the army really were paid that much, there wouldn't be the same debates around them if they actually were. But the reality is, and I read Ross Kemp's book that must have accompanied in his Sky One series, and he was describing that they're actually quite badly equipped. There's quite poor morale. There's pay isn't all that much. Actually, sometimes soldiers struggle to get benefits if they get disabilities as a result of what they do. These footballers are in private hands. I don't know how people can value them that much. It's just like entertainment stars. And I really like watching certain movies that the actors have paid 20,000 or whatever. It's going to be silly, like 20 million. Aberystwyth. We didn't make it. Another stupid argument. I can make a thing about taking up people's arguments from. One thing that they say is that in any debates, really online or in person, whatever, the opposing view tries to tell you that you're not entitled to your point of view because of some sort of hypocrisy, something they can pick apart about your argument. So in this thing about footballers getting paid too much, and you object to it, they would say that one of their arguments is also that if you were offered that much, you wouldn't turn it down. And if you admit that, then you're not entitled to accept that footballers get too much. They could even say that if you won the lottery, you wouldn't turn it down because there are also poorer people. So, given the power of money and the effect it has over people, you couldn't blame the politician. You might not be able to blame the footballers either. You would say that the situation is bad and it's out of hand. Even if you wouldn't complain about it, given that power, you would probably think, well, with my sense of ethics, they've now just given me the power to do something good with it, something. Shouldn't have done that, because I was going to park here. Well, I'm not now. Good news is more gets to go on the footage. Apart from that, I've now no idea where to park, so. Park shopper. That's interesting. That's what they usually get in a retail park. Well, one of the words, the word there is park, isn't it? So that's why I'm going here. They probably could find out I've been here and fine you and all that bollocks. Never make life easy, do they? And I'm forever going to complain about it. This is negative and I don't like it. But there you go. You have to worry about everything. Anxiety is the key of money. It's the key of everything. Everything you want to do, you've got to think, what could go wrong? And here it's like, well, yes, you can park for free. 2 hour max stay. Tell you what, let's stay here then for 2 hours. That's fine, I don't mind.